Hi, this is David again. In this video, I'd like to be somewhat of an expert. I don't use my expertise much anymore. I have expertise in handicapped children, emotionally disturbed children, and I ran residential treatment centers, one in Kansas and 3 in Massachusetts. The kids would riot, scream, yell, throw stuff and chairs out the door, kick your car in. They'd been kicked out of every public school in the East, Rhode Island, New Jersey, and my job was basically to manage them. Now, my background was LDS, of course, and I thought people would just see me as the patriarch, and I would say, sit down, and they would not say, screw you, and throw the chair at me. I wasn't used to that. I kind of had to pick up some new skills, if you know what I mean. So I'd kind of like to save special education for another video, but I am, again, an expert. I'm going to say that. I'm an expert in raising children. I have 14 children, and I've raised many, many residential children, and I have some grandkids now that I've had some input in. So let me give you my education, my experience, and if it helps you, fine. If it doesn't, pay your money, go to the mall. When you first get a baby, it's an exciting and wonderful thing. God, they are so cute, and they only cry when they're wet and when they're hungry. When that same baby becomes 13, 14, or 15, it's hard to believe they're going to scream, I must be adopted, you're not my real parents, and I hate you. I don't know what happens in those 12 or 13 years, but something does. I'm laughing because my little 13-year-old now, because I've raised her very independent, she babysits and she makes her own money. I don't get into it. She spends her money the way that she wants. And she's been spending some time down with my son, who I know supervises her, but my son is cool. I'm not. God, I'm 40 years older than he is, so the 13-year-old goes, yeah, he's got a beard, and he's really bald. Your hair grows back gray. And a long story short, she came home yesterday, and a typical 13-year-old. And I said, well, honey, you know, you slept in your clothes, and you need to go in and take a shower. No! Now, I've never seen a 1-month-old baby, when I say, you really need to take a bath, I've never seen him go, no! I go, and she hasn't been this way. She hasn't been this way, but she's now in junior high, and she's influenced by other kids, and she has many friends, and they test the envelope. And so, whatever, 15 minutes later, every 15 minutes for like an hour, I kept telling her, go take a shower and put on some clean clothes. No! Now, in the old days, and I'm sure I do have an audience that are 18 to 30, so you're right in the middle of this crap, I'm sure, is coming right up on you. And so finally, I realized what was going on. It's not pleasant. I really wanted to slap the crap out of her and slam her against the wall and say, now do you want to take a bath? Now, when I was your age and younger, I hate to admit it, but that is how I parented in those days. Because I was punitive. The Mormon church made me punitive. You bow your head and you say, yes, I'm the patriarch, I'm your father, and you will respect me. Well, I didn't know in those days that respect comes with trying and learning to, or obedience comes with respect. If you don't respect the person, you're not going to obey. And even if you respect them and you're a teenager, you're going to try to push the envelope a little bit. Well, I've learned in my old age and raising my last family here, my 13-year-old and my 8-year-old girls, that you can't demand. If you get in a pulling match with a child, you're going to lose. If you start pulling, do this, no, do this, no, do... If you are so stupid that you're going to argue with a child, get used to losing. Get used to losing. Now, You got to be smarter than the child. You want her in the shower. Well, how do you get her in the shower? Well, in the old days, I would have threatened her and said, you know, I'm dragging you in there and you're going to get a bath. Well, I don't want to be the old Mormon father. I don't want to be that. I've changed my approach and my value system. So she has her little iPod, and she has her computer, and she has her telephone, and all the things that normal kids have these days. And so I just basically said, and this is called behavior modification. It's not forcing anybody to do anything. All it's doing is making the price of disobedience so high that the child goes, I don't want a bath, but I'm going. Okay. That's called behavior modification. And yeah, I'm an expert in it. And I have learned, don't argue with children. Don't get into it. It's your bedtime. No, it's not. The clock, I put it back a half an hour. Oh, okay, well, I guess you'll get up a half an hour early then to go to school. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. I'll push the hands back. It's behavior modification. You don't have to yell at them. You don't have to hit them. You don't have to scream up and down and make you look like an idiot. So that baby is wonderful. Now, when it starts to grow that first year, the changes are magnificent. It'll finally sit up, it'll finally smile, it'll finally roll over, and it'll finally crawl. And then it'll pull up on the sides of the crib and smile when you come in the room. And that's exciting. Good Lord, those are going to be the best days of your life. Because when they're 13, you're going to wish they were one again. And they start talking. And they start their food, and they throw it on the ground, and they chew on your good furniture, and they stain your carpet. And my son said to me, and he's 35, I guess, he said, one of my sons, he said, Dad, he says, am I going to ever have anything nice? And I said, no, not while you have kids. You'll never have anything nice. He said, were we this bad? I go, yeah, your sister, I'm trying to think which one it was. I think it was Amy. I'm not sure. It might have been Amy or Rachel. That Mom and I decided to sleep in on Easter and not get up. Well, Boo-Boo got out of bed, and she got into a paint can and a brush, and she walked around our entire house at the 3-foot level, painting her name and painting. Now, this was a nice house. It was, you know, an upper middle class house. We got out of bed and went out in the hall, and I could see it wasn't going to be a good day. I could see $1,000 for a new paint job in the house because Boo-Boo decided to paint for herself. Well, I learned from that day too, when I hear Boo-Boo up, I get up. It cost me $1,000 to lay in bed. That ain't worth it. So she knows behavior modification too. She wants Dad up, she knocks on the door, Dad, I'm going to paint. Oh, I'm up. I'm up. You go through some really important stages of child development. There's markers, you know, they should be talking, you know, babbling and saying some things at certain ages. The girls will be up and walking a little bit at 12 months, 13 months. The boys a month or two later. Toilet training, the girls always go first, and then the boys. And the girls are girls. From the moment they're born, they talk and talk and talk. They jabber and jabber, and they look at Mom, and there's a wonderful relationship between Mom and the girls. They love to jabber. And the boys, from the get-go, they play with trucks. They throw stuff. They put pennies in the electrical outlets and then wonder why their hand is on fire. Boys are adventuresome, destructive. They'll ride their bike over the patio to see how far they can bounce when it's 50 feet in the air. The girls are much easier, for me. Now, I'm just speaking for me. Many of you may have boys that are as easy as can be. But the girls will sit in their room and they'll color and make beads and, oh, Daddy, look, I have lipstick. And, you know, it's in her forehead. But there's developmental stages there that are very important for you and me as a parent to recognize and understand. Now, my 8-year-old loved being an 8-year-old. She loved to be the daddy's baby and sit on my lap. And once sister went to 7th grade and started wearing a little makeup and learns how to dance and learns, suddenly the 8-year-old goes, I need lip gloss. And one day she came out with rouge, I think they still call it rouge, all over her face, and she got into her mother's lipstick, and she looked like Homie the Clown. But I couldn't say that as a father. Most of us would go berserk and say, you know, why are you in your mom's stuff? I just said, honey, you look really nice, but you might want to look in a mirror. And she did. It's behavior mod. She goes, I look stupid. I go, I'm going to agree with you on this one. And she took it off. So that's pushing my 8-year-old to be a little bit more mature and a little bit more wanting to grow up and be like her sister. She wants her hair like her sister. Her sister is now dancing and doing gymnastics and volleyball and many activities. And now the baby came in last night. I still call her the baby. And she says, Dad, I can dance. I want to show you. And I said, honey, I don't want to put on any rap music at 10 o'clock. She says, well, we'll do it in the morning. I said, okay, I'll watch you in the morning. So there's key factors in development. And we have to be sensitive to that. And if we use behavior modification, our kids will basically respect us. Because I'll say to them, you know, I'd really like to rip your arm off and beat you with it, but, you know, I'd rather take the iPod for a day. Oh, I don't want the iPod. Okay, go up to your room then. It's bedtime. Okay, okay. You make disobedience so intolerable that they decide for themselves. You don't decide. It's true free agency. Now, you come through those ages where if you've got a special ed kid, you're going to know it. If they can't talk, if they can't walk, if they can't feed themselves, they're way too fussy for their age, they're in pain, or something else is going on, you can't let your parenthood rule your sense. You are responsible for that child and the happiness and the development and the safety and the comfort of that child. Put away any thoughts that, oh, how could a defective baby come out of me? We never had an autistic baby before. I got to tell you a funny story on my, I can't even remember, second or third wife. I went to her father and asked for her hand. And I was in the back of his Cadillac, and so was she. We were driving along, and I said, Bill, I'd really like permission to marry your daughter. He goes, and he's from Oklahoma, so that's where the belt buckle is the second form of ID. It says Bill on it, and if you have teeth, you're not part of the group. But anyway, Bill says, you going to support her okay? I said, well, I think so. I have a college degree. He says, well, do you have any retardation in your family? I thought, shit, what kind of a question is that? I said, no, sir, we don't have any retardation in our family. Do you? You don't ask that question to me. I go, okay, okay. I won't ask that question, but we don't have any retardation. No retarded child could come out of this buff body. It used to be buff. So what's funny as hell about that is we had 3 children in that marriage, and the second one, my son Aaron, is autistic. I've got 14 kids. They're all, I've got one that's got an MBA, one's a transcriber, one's a CPA. Where did the autistic kid come from? The girl from Oklahoma. Her dad must have been carrying that gene. And he turns around to me and says, you got any retardation? I go, no, do you? I should have listened for the answer. But anyway, I love Aaron and I raised him, and boy, when you've got a special ed kid, you better know behavior modification, because if you get into it with a special ed kid, again, you will always lose. They throw themselves down in Walmart and start stuffing their face with candy, and you grab them with those video cameras up there now, and all the parents with cell phones. I'll tell you a funny one with a cell phone. My little Genevieve was acting up in a restaurant, and our car was parked right by the front window of the restaurant. I mean, you could look in and see in the car. And I told Jenny, I said, you know, you're going to have to behave, or you're going to go out and sit in the car. So she decided to go sit in the car. Well, she knew behavior modification pretty well too, because one of the ladies in the restaurant called the police. And I'm looking out the window, and here's the police at my car, and I run out there and I go, what's the problem? He said, you can't put that baby in the car. That's child abuse or child endangerment. I said, oh, okay. And so I learned the times have changed. Everyone's got a cell phone, everyone's got a camera. And as a parent, you can't pinch them, you can't slap them, you can't spank them with those cameras on. There's always going to be some fanatical person that said you beat the kid up. Believe me, pain will bring a child around to your way of thinking for a short time. But as soon as they get out of your sight, they're going to climb out the window, they're going to sneak out the door, they're going to go get pregnant and be revengeful towards you and vindictive. So, you come through those early ages of childhood, of elementary school, and hopefully your child is not bullied. Hopefully, as I say that, I have another story. My son, Adam, he was being bullied at elementary school, and so Dad taught him to punch and to fight and to be, I don't know, a boxer, whatever you want to call it. And so I took him to school one day, and the kid that was teasing him was facing away from the car. And as a good father, I just said to my son, go up and tap him on the shoulder, and when he turns around, just slam him in the face as hard as you can. He'll go down. And he was a Mormon, my kid, and he was obedient. Kid turned around, my son slammed him, he fell like a noodle to the ground. Well, the principal didn't think that I was a very good parent. But the kid left my kid alone. So, you're going to get some things in elementary school. You may have children that struggle with reading. You may have to spend some time in the evening when you're working 2 jobs. That's a bitch to try to tell your kid, honey, I got to go to sleep, I got to get up at 7. You're torn between your children and your work and supporting them. And in elementary school, you have a lot of, dioramas and volcanoes and airplanes that you have to build so your kid can pass. And then right at 5th or 6th grade now, mostly more in 5th, your girls are going to start to develop, and they're going to have the girls only class about development. And that's, I've always felt that that's when I start losing my girls. You can't tickle them anymore. You can't really wrestle them around in bed. You can't, be the kind of father that you were when she was little. Bounce her on your lap and kiss her and whatever. You start moving away from that, I think, if you're a good father, and you tell them why. They don't know why, and they think that you're rejecting them. And I say, honey, you're developing, you're turning into a little woman, and there's things that dads just don't do with little girls anymore. There's nothing wrong with it, but you're going to get married, and then your husband will, touch you and be with you, but, Daddy can't do that anymore. I had my 7-year-old when she was 7. She wanted to take a bath, and she said, Dad, would you come in and take a bath with me? And I said, honey, and usually around 5 years old, 6 years old, I stopped taking baths with the kids. This little girl's from the Philippines, and her and I lived in a bathtub because it was so hot in the Philippines, and so she was, a little bit later in developing that way. And I told her, I said, honey, Daddy can't take a bath with you anymore. That's something that you need your privacy because you're growing up. Okay. And this is the one, they were both this way when I got them, terrorized to shut the bathroom door because they didn't have flush toilets where they came from, and they were terrorized. And the older one now, the 13-year-old, she's fine. She shuts the door and has her privacy. And the little one, she'll say to me, Dad, leave the door open, but don't look at me. I said, okay, I need privacy. I said, okay. And now she takes her own bath, and she wraps herself up in the towel and covers her breast. And there's that feelings for fathers that we've lost our little girls. And it's sad, but it's good because we've fed them and we've trained them. We've talked to them, and they're emerging into young womanhood and boys, and someday in the next few years some boy's going to have her heart, and we're going to be like an old shoe kicked to the curb. Well, your boys, they're going to be right around 12. They're going to develop just a little bit later than the girls. Not always. Every kid develops differently. But the boys develop a little bit differently because they're having wet dreams. They're having an erection, and at night they're dreaming about sexy things, and they wake up and, they've got sperm all over the sheets and all over themselves, and at first they have no idea what's going on, and they're scared, and they need mom or dad to go, hey, it's no big deal, that's just the way life is. You're turning into a man, and you've got sex desires now, and sperm is made in you, and it's got to come out. And that's basically how it comes out. Unless you masturbate, then you take it out yourself, and that's a little more pleasurable, but you got to do that in your bedroom or in the bathroom with the door locked, and that's your own business. It's your penis. You do what you want with it, but don't be putting it in any girls. That becomes our business as your parents. Oh, okay. So the boys and the girls develop differently, and certainly the girls are much more mature, right up to about 9th grade. The boys just put frogs down their shirts and skate and knock them down, and the boys have no idea how to get a girl's attention. Well, then you get into your teenage years, because now she's going to be driving in the next year or so, and suddenly you're not going to be there. Suddenly that child can get 100, 150 miles a night away from you, and you never know unless you take the readings of the speedometer on the car. And that child is going to be talking on the phone, a cell phone these days. It used to be they'd lay on the floor and you could hear what they're saying. Nowadays they can call walking home from school, and you don't have that unless you have GPS. And then they're smart. They put the GPS in somebody else's car, and you're seeing them all over town like they're supposed to be, and they're way over there. It's respect. You have got to learn respect. And if you're a Mormon, they're not going to respect you because you're punitive, you're arbitrary, and they're going to rebel eventually. Now, first, they're going to bow their heads and say yes, but they don't have respect for you. And when they get out on their own and someone says, hey, let's drink tonight and I'd like to get in your panties, there's going to be some of your girls that are going to go, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to rebel against my parents. They're not in charge of my body. Well, my girls are trained on what the responsibilities are there, and I've set the consequences out so severe that they can hold hands and kiss and put their arms around people and act affectionate. But once they start to get, you know, sexual, now we're crossing over a boundary, and they know they're crossing over that boundary, and they've been trained. I can't control. I don't know how. Every human being has different sexuality. Some are, you know, want sex 3 times a day or more, and others don't care if they ever have sex. You don't know what your kid is going to be like, and if you try to extrapolate your sexual feelings to your kid, you're making a mistake. What they bring to the table could be entirely different than what you brought to the table. So tell them the truth. You know, don't tell them if they masturbate they're going to go blind. Because your boys will say, well, is it okay if I do it until I need glasses and then I'll stop? The Mormon Church is devastating to children. I don't care how you put it. They put those little kids in primary, follow the prophet. That's cult training from that point forward. I hope they call me on a mission. Praise to the man. Those kids are programmed, and your kids, if they've been there, they're damn programmed. They've been to Young Women's, they've been to Scouts, they're the Eagle Scouts, and they got patches all over them, and they're going on a mission, and man, you got yourself a cult member. And when those girls or boys get alone, there's going to be some sexual experimentation. And if you haven't laid out what the rules are, my girls know what syphilis looks like, what gonorrhea looks like, and they don't want to have herpes around their mouths. Then don't do the things that cause that. Oh, okay, okay. I've got one daughter, I'm not going to go by names because they may see this someday. I got one daughter that married a returned missionary. He gave her herpes. How'd he get herpes? Oh, on his mission, between lessons, he was screwing some of his contacts. Don't think it's not going to happen. Don't think it's not going to happen. I got a phone call one day from the Midwest. I was out in California, and my son, I won't mention his name, his little girlfriend comes on the phone, and I'm listening, and she says, well, I'm carrying one of your grandchildren. Your son got me pregnant. Now that's not good news. I'm a social worker, so I'm trained to go, okay. I'm not trained to go, you know, we don't do that when we're educated. So I said to her, well, why are you calling me? She says, well, I'm a little bit slow. I'm not retarded, but I don't think I can take care of a baby. And I don't think your son's responsible. Well, she was right there. She was right there. Mr. Penis was not responsible. So she says to me, I'd like to get your permission to abort the baby. Now, this is difficult for me because I do believe in abortion. If a girl has been incest by a parent or someone else and she doesn't want to carry that baby, she has every right in the world to have it swept out of her body, and that's the end of that. Her life should not be destroyed by the behavior of somebody else. If a girl is poor, she can't care for the baby, and she doesn't want it adopted, it's her body, I'm going to say, hey, you take the responsibility. I'm also going to say, as a social worker, I've never seen a girl have an abortion and recover. I've never seen a girl have an abortion and psychologically recover. It is a scar that is there the rest of her life. Be that as it may, this little girl said to me, is it okay if I get an abortion? Well, this is my family. This is my responsibility. These are my grandchildren. And I made a very strong decision. I said, absolutely not. If you can't care for the baby, bring it here and I'll care for the baby, but I don't want you to abort the baby that you and my son created. Okay. Well, 3 months later, she had a miscarriage, and the situation became moot. Well, as those kids grow, you better develop your behavior modification skills, because they're smarter than they used to be. They've got more electronics. If my girl wants to look at a penis, how am I going to stop that on the internet? How am I going to stop that? Tape her computer to my head so I know that, you know, come on. Grow up. These kids need information. They need to be trained of the consequences of certain behaviors. Then they have to make their minds up. They have to make their minds up. If you're good parents, they know the difference between affection and sex. If you hug your girls and you hug your boys and kiss them on the cheek or the forehead or the head or whatever, they know that's affection. You know, if you go full on your daughter's lips and pull her into you, that's sexual. You don't do that shit. You don't do that shit. Mormon fathers do. A lot of Mormon fathers are pedophiles. Ah, reminds me of my pedophile story. My father, good Mormon, good elders quorum, in the elders quorum presidency. And back in the old days, all of you are too young, there used to be called a Sunday school superintendent, which was nobody more than it just stood up at the podium and said, welcome to Sunday school, you're all excused. See, you couldn't just go to Sunday school, you had to be excused. And then he walked the halls, and you weren't to be out of class. You belong in class, and you're not allowed to sit in the foyer. Well, my dad fit into that very well. He was obnoxious, and he was punitive. He was never abusive. I was never abused physically or mentally by that father. He was a good father. He supported us, and he had a good reputation. He'd never been in jail. He didn't have any smoking or drinking, but he was fanatical in the Mormon church. Well, a short story long, I was at BYU, and my sister just turned 12 or so. She happened to go over to one of her girlfriend's house and told the girlfriend, my father, the Mormon, had been molesting her 2 years. Coming in her room and ejaculating on her, making her play with his penis, and he called it sexual education. Mormons will always say the right thing. Mormons will always do the wrong thing. So, it ruined my sister's life. She was divorced twice, now she lives alone. She can't stand being around men because of what my father did to her. Well, if you're a Mormon and you're watching this tape, you're going, well, he's just, you know, one bad guy and it doesn't mean anything. All this will be straightened out in the millennium. Well, bullshit. My father got married again and married a woman that had a 10-year-old daughter. And I was sitting in their home one day, and the mother was crying. And I said, Diane, I said, why are you crying? She says, well, your dad is in big trouble with the church. And I said, oh, what's he done? She says, well, I came down the staircase once early in the morning, and he was in the bathroom with Deanie, and they were masturbating each other. Being a social worker, I didn't do one of these. I don't know. Anything else? How did that make you feel? She said, but I think your dad's going to not be excommunicated because this is his first time. Do Mormons lie? All the time. I said, well, Diane, I don't want to say this, but you know, I'd rather protect children than my father. It's not his first time. She nearly falls off the couch on the floor. She says, it's not his first time? I said, no. He's molested my other sister for over 2 years, and probably, we suspect strongly, a couple kids in the neighborhood. Oh my! Oh. Now, I'm banned from their Mormon home. Me! I'm still a Mormon in those days, but because the messenger brought that messenger, they killed the messenger. That's Mormonism. That's the way they're punitive and vindictive. They never do anything wrong. He lied, and he never got excommunicated. When we reported him in Ojai, California, to our bishop and the state president sitting in the same room, they were outraged. Oh, this should never happen. We're going to take care of this. You know what they did? Nothing. Nothing. My own ears, my own eyes. I have seen it. Not something I heard. No group is telling me this. I'm not reading anti-Mormon literature. I sat in that meeting and they did nothing. Ever. So I think, well, you know, at least in Colorado, that bishop may feel differently and that state president may discipline him. So it went to the state president and it went to the bishop. You know what they did? Nothing! My own eyes and my own ears, nothing! And then, a year from them, after he is masturbating his 10-year-old, they ordain him to a high priest! Are these people that mean, that hateful, that they would not protect a child? Yeah, they are. They'll protect their own ass. They don't give a shit about your children. They will say with their lips, oh, it's terrible, it's terrible. What will they do? Don't listen to the words of the Mormons. Watch their behavior. Watch their behavior. Study them. Look at their history. See the filth and the squalor of that doctrine and that history for children and women. It's not David. I've seen 2 little girls have their lives ruined by a high priest. That's how he was rewarded for masturbating these 2 girls. Don't let this religion ruin your family and your life. You watch out for your children. Never, never, never let your child go in the bishop's office alone. That bishop is a truck driver. That bishop is a bricklayer. That bishop is a landscape man. That bishop has been unemployed for 6 months or a year. He has a penis too. And when he gets your 10-year-old in there and says, well, how often do you masturbate? Do you do that in your bed? How about in the bathtub? Oh, on the toilet. How many times? If you let your kid go in that bishop's office alone and don't supervise her, you are responsible. Not a 10-year-old. Not a 10-year-old. You are responsible. And if she gets molested or she comes out with a bad feeling about her body or her vagina or that God, Jesus, hates her, that's your fault. That's your fault. I'm telling you right now, as a master's level person, do not leave your children alone with shut doors and other people that may take emotional or physical advantage of them. Why did the Mormon Church start putting windows in the bishop's office? Door. Why did the Mormon Church start putting windows in the bishop's offices in the new Mormon churches? Mormons, figure it out yourselves. They needed more light. Yeah. The non-Mormons, because anyone could look in and that bishop better behave. There's your answer. The atheist answer is the correct one. The Mormon answer sucks. We had a primary teacher down here in Pleasant Grove. I was teaching little kids. He molested them. He's down in the prison right now. If that was your little kid, that's your problem. It's not his problem. It's your problem. Because you didn't supervise close enough and you believed, you had that feeling of the burning that he couldn't do something like that. Hey, he did, and now your kid is scarred for life. We have more women in Utah committing sexual crimes with their high school and junior high school students than we do men. Figure that one out. If women are so happy in the temple marriage and with their husbands, why are they screwing the 9th and 8th and 11th grade boys? I don't know. Why are they addicted to drugs, #1 in the nation? I don't know. Why are they #3 in the nation, overweight and fat? I don't know. Because they're married in the temple and they're happy, happy, happy. Be careful with your children. Don't let them get tangled in this snake pit of the Mormon cult. Don't trust people. You send your, we've got 2 or 3 cases in Idaho, I think one in Washington, where the Boy Scouts were all sleeping in the same tent, and the Scoutmaster comes in and he decides to perform oral sex on them, or anal sex, and the church got sued, and the church, as part of the lawsuit, which is common in these kinds of cases, requires that we'll give you money, but you will never say anything about this case. Your boys and Boy Scouts, be careful. Now, is every Scout leader an evil, terrible person? No. Are some? Yes. And you better tell your boys, if that Scout leader comes in and that Scout leader touches you or suggests that you do that, you go to somebody that you trust and say, that man was inappropriate. And then we as adults will take appropriate action. If you say nothing to your boys, then it's your fault. It's your fault because you didn't educate them, and it's your fault because you didn't watch them close enough. If my daughter gets raped or my daughter gets pregnant, that ain't my fault. That ain't my fault. She has her freedom. She has her free agency. She's in charge of her own body. I give her the best advice. I try to make the consequences very clear. But if that's her decision, I don't feel guilty. I don't feel responsible. So teach your children what the truth of life is, all of the sexual ramifications, and let them know they're going to be sexual. They're going to want that. It feels good. It's fun. But look at the consequences. Look at the consequences and be wise. So I'm advising you, again, as a professional counselor, don't leave those children alone with any adult. I don't care if it's a PTA meeting. I don't care if it's a special ed meeting. I don't care what it is. Don't leave your kids alone. Now, I'll give you an example. I bring the kids home from school. I have a friend that takes them in the morning, and I bring them back from school, and I bring my 8-year-old back, and she asked me, can her friend come with us? And I said, her friend needs to call her dad, and I need to hear her dad's voice, or her mom's voice, on the phone that says, David, yes, you can take our daughter home with your daughter. We did, and I've been taking her all year. Suddenly, little Shane comes over to the car. He says, I live, you know, right beside you guys. Can I ride with you? I said, you go in the office, you get your mother on the phone, and I want to hear her voice, that it's okay that I take you home. She says, yes. So I bring them home, all 3 of them, every day. Now, my daughter and Shane have to stay after school, and it's only Chai. Now, what the hell do I do? Now, I'm alone in a car with, I think she's 12, and I need to protect myself. I don't need to protect her. I'm mature. That child could go home and say, yeah, David was bringing me home and he grabbed my boob. Where's my reputation? Who's going to believe me over her? There's no one else in that car. I won't transport them. I won't. They'll walk, and I'll drive the car along where they're walking, but I won't transport them. Same way with a babysitter. My daughter babysits now, and I told her, I said, you know, I don't want you driving home with someone who's been drinking. You're welcome to stay overnight. But if he comes in drunk and he wants to get on the couch with you and start, you know, sexual behavior, you better be aware of what's going on, and it's not to be going on, and you need to get up and you need to get yourself out of that situation. And the same way with bringing people, I never take a babysitter home. Never. Always my wife. Always my wife. Am I a fanatic? Well, I am. I used to be a Mormon. So, be careful of those kids. Protect those kids with your life. Protect those kids with information. The Mormon Church makes you ashamed of your penis and your vagina, and you certainly don't want to say anything to those kids about an erection or a wet dream or their period. You're just scared to death as parents. Well, you're not prepared as parents. How did the kid come into the world? You must have put your penis in your wife and ejaculated, and the baby must have come out of her vagina or a C-section. Who are you fooling? Not these modern kids, because when they get to 7th, 8th grade, they're going to see on the internet, they're going to see with their friends, they're going to see with pictures, and then their friends. My daughter came home and she said to me, she says, "Dad, the kids say at school that if you have intercourse, you can get stuck together and you'll have to go to the hospital to be separated. Is that true?" I'm glad I have a daughter that can come home and say that. I go, "No, that's crap. It's not true." "Oh, okay." Out the door she goes. Out the door she goes. Last night she was giving me the, "No, no, no, I hate you," and, you know, the, "You're not my real father." You know, we hear that all the time. And she's sitting on the edge of the bed, and I said, "You know, this is not like you. This is not your personality. Are you on your period?" "No, no, no." "Oh, okay." And she'll come in sometimes when we go on vacation, or she's got basketball. She says, "Dad, I got to get a few more tampons. I don't have enough." "Okay, get them." Yeah, "Dad, take me to Walmart. I got to get some stuff." "Okay." You better have a true parental relationship with those kids. If you don't, those kids are at risk, and you can have the heartache, and you can blame yourself the rest of your life, and you can have them scarred. Don't hit them. Try not to yell at them. I still raise my voice. I have to admit, sometimes after 9 or 10 times, I will raise my voice. And you can, you know, take them by the arm and escort them. You can't grab them around the neck or grab their hair and throw them in the bathroom. But, you know, you can still be a parent and give discipline that is not abusive. And learn behavior modification. Make the consequences so great that disobedience is never even thought of. Hopefully this has been helpful. It's helped me to be a much better parent. I was lousy in my 20s and 30s. In my 60s, I'm better. I'm better. If someone had said these things to me and I was 28 or 30, I would have been a better parent. Good luck to you, and don't let the Mormon Church put you to the left or to the right. Get in the middle. Get in the middle. They will say moderation in all things, but their lips lie. There is no moderation in the Mormon Church. It is black or it is white. Life isn't that way. Life is lived in all the gray. There is no black. There is no white. It is a lie. And when you're training children, you better learn the gray area. Sometimes you'll let them go to a dance. There'll be other times you go, no. And this is why. These are the reasons why. So learn to deal with children appropriately, properly, kindly, lovingly. And for God's sakes, don't let the Mormon Church take your kids in the office alone, be down molesting them when they're down in primary, or sleeping with them up in the Boy Scout tents. Thank you very much.